Hello, is there truth? I'm going to show you two short video clips of a pencil falling over. Not very exciting, but please bear with me. Look at this video clip. Here's the pencil, standing on its tip. I let go, and, not surprisingly, the pencil falls over. Let's do that again. The pencil stands on its tip, I let go, and boom, it falls over. Did you notice anything particular about what happened there? In the two videos, in both cases, what we expected happened. A pencil standing on its tip is not a stable configuration. It will therefore fall over. However, even though the original situation, the pencil standing on its tip, is completely symmetrical, there is no preferred direction. Once the pencil falls over, it chooses a direction to fall in, and that is what happens. It falls in one particular direction. That principle in physics is known as symmetry breaking. You start with an originally symmetrical situation, it becomes unstable, and nature chooses effectively at random an outcome to go for. Now, what has this got to do with there being a purpose to the universe? Well, let me explain this to you. You are asking of atheists what they would expect a universe that has purpose to look like. Well, what I would expect a universe that has purpose to look like is that from the original state of the universe, there is a clear and direct, say, arrow pointing towards what the universe will look like today. And this is where you have to be very, very careful and understand that symmetry breaking does not fall in that bracket. The universe has properties that are conducive to the emergence of life within that universe. Or, as people have often said, life, as we know it, could not exist if the laws of nature were very different, from what they are now. Even cosmological constants, as they are known, if they had slightly different values, they would not, life as we know it would not be possible. Does that therefore mean that there is a clear arrow from the universe, from the original state of the universe at the time of the Big Bang, to humanity now, for example, so you can say that the universe was created for the purpose of creating humanity? No, because what we see is the result of symmetry breaking. It could all have been so different, and there is no establishing factor at the start of the universe that says it had to come out like that. In other words, if we were to rewind the clock to the start of the universe and set the whole thing off again, we would see a very different universe from the way it is now. Even if we allowed all the original symmetry breakings that set the values for the gravitational constant and all the other values to be exactly the same, we would still end up with something that we would not recognize today. The Earth would probably not have existed, because matter in the universe, in this area of the universe, would have congealed slightly differently, and there might not have been a solar system here or something completely different. Even if the Earth was there, the history of life as we've seen to date would have been very different, and humanity would never have existed. Instead, we would have a different fauna and flora, if we even had a flora and fauna, because even the emergence of plants and animals was due to certain symmetry breaking events during the evolution of life. So humanity, for example, does not look like an inevitable outcome of what the universe was like at the start of the universe. And that is what we mean when we say that the universe does not appear to have any purpose. There is no indication that the start of the universe would have necessarily led to the state of the universe we see today. and therefore it has no discernible purpose. Another thing I would expect of a universe that had purpose would be that as we see the universe developing, as we understand the history of the universe and we see its development from the Big Bang to now, to the current state of the universe, we would expect to see that as it's going on the course of arriving to the state of the universe as it is today, we would expect to see that occasionally it might have started deviating from that course, and we would then expect some correcting mechanism to kick in and pull us back to this pre-designed course, this purpose that it would have. Again, there's no evidence whatsoever in the development of the universe that something like that ever occurred. And that again is what we mean as atheists when we say that the universe does not appear to have any purpose. So then, there is of course something in the universe that is very different in that regard, and that is, at the very least, humanity. But even simpler, animals. Animals behave purposefully. Why? Because that is how they evolved over time. They evolved as feedback mechanisms. Mechanisms that feedback from their environment into their own state and act in a correcting manner if the situation does not develop in a particular desired way. That is a feedback mechanism, and that is what ultimately causes purpose. But that only evolved when life came on the scene. It has nothing to do with the universe as a whole, and it only applies to individual beings. Purpose is something that we humans invented to explain how our own feedback mechanisms work. To have a word for that. It is nothing more than that. Of course, as intelligent beings, we have been able to abstract our own view of ourselves to a number of levels from the original physical substrate on which we were built. And as a result, we can look at ourselves from what Daniel Dennett called the intentional stance. We can look at ourselves and we say, Joe went down to shoot his lady because she was messing around with another man. Not because electrons in his brain just happened to fire in a certain direction and his neurons just happened to work in a certain way so that he picked up that gun and was compelled to do this. No, it's because he caught her messing around with another man that Joe went to kill his lady. That is the purpose that we assign to it from this level of abstraction that we call the intentional stance. It's something that applies to us humans. It is not something that applies to the universe as a whole. Thank you.